Welcome to the Richard Sherman Podcast. If you're new, hit that sub button. We're here to give you great NFL content, game breakdowns, player interviews, and stories from around the league. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Richard Sherman Podcast, presented to you by our friends and sponsors over at Breitling. We appreciate you guys. Got us shining. As always, that Honolulu blue Breitling. I want to wear my Seattle Seahawks one, but they're not out yet. They're not out yet. So until I get my Seattle Seahawks one, I'm not going to wear my Niners one because I don't want to hear anything crazy about it. Then I'm going to be double wristing it, Mitchell. Double wristing it.
Richard, I'm going to tell you this. The Honolulu blue is a beautiful thing. I'll be wearing it down in Dallas this upcoming weekend. But when you come to Detroit for that Thursday night game against Green Bay, I will give you the honor of wearing this Honolulu blue Lion Breitling. If you want it, the option is there. You can promote my hometown Detroit Lions. Come on now. But for real, I did see you on Thursday Night Football rocking your Breitling. I imagine you got a ton of compliments. Richard, I know we're fired up to get into the show. Where you at right now?
Well, we had a great game. Well, it was on its way to being a great game between the Kansas City Chiefs and the New Orleans Saints. Mitchell, what did you think?
Richard, this was vintage Mahomes today. I mean, the Chiefs looked like the Chiefs have for the last 5-6 years. Travis Kelce looks like his 29-year-old self again. I mean, Samaje Perine had to get used to him looking for that pitch play on 3rd and 22. I mean, it's just wild to see Kansas City execute. I mean, they were, 2nd and 36, and they get a first down. I mean, Patrick Mahomes and this team, until someone knocks him off, they got to be the best team in the league, and he's got to be the front runner for the MVP. Richard, I got to hear your thoughts, man.
Yeah, I mean, I keep hearing about Patrick Mahomes' stat lines and that he's not having a great season and whatever. He had 331 yards today passing. They really leaned on Kareem Hunt more than I think Andy Reid wanted to. He carried the ball 27 times, Mitchell. 27 times for 102 yards and 1 touchdown. But again, Rashee Rice is out. Now it's confirmed that he's out for the season. They are starting to lean on Travis Kelce as they did in the past. There's less people to get the ball to. Xavier Worthy had a few catches, but no big explosive plays. I think the Saints did a good job and made that a point of emphasis. He did draw a long pass interference call on Paulson Adebo, which, it's one of those plays. As a DB, I'm always biased, but it's like legs get caught up, your receivers push off, and then you're like, oh, the DB shouldn't grab. It's like, well, you push off, somebody's going to grab. But it's going to be a great year for them, starting off 5-0, going into the bye, can get a little healthier, can figure things out. And they usually do a really good job coming off a bye week. But the Saints, this is really concerning because you just lost your 3rd straight. You lost Derek Carr, apparent oblique injury, which is usually long term. I'll knock on wood. I don't want to jinx anything, but those injuries aren't usually just a quick strain and get him back out there next week. They do have a few more days of rest before they go host the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for a very important divisional matchup. But they're winning games no matter what. No matter what happens, they win games. Whether they're close, they're sloppy, they're ugly. Spags was going after Derek Carr the entire night. They were bringing pressure. Nick Bolton looked really good. He's starting to – I can't say he's starting to develop because he's been playing at a high level his entire time in the league. He's doing great. He's a perfect fit in Spags' defense. Trent McDuffie had another good game, but, had the penalty on him. Watson continues to do well. Since L'Jarius Sneed has been gone, he's stepped up and had a greater impact. It's just so many places, so many people are having a great impact. To be able to take Kareem Hunt from the situation he was in and bring him back into the fold and make him a every down workhorse like he was in the past has been really cool. And it's like, you think any team's going to do it. Of course, it's the Chiefs. Of course, they can take Kareem Hunt, give him the ball 27 times, he run for 102 yards, and everybody act like this is normal. It's not normal. It's not normal at all. But they keep winning, and no matter how frustrated the world is at how they win, They're getting it done. And if Mahomes starts playing like himself, it's going to get out of hand. And so teams better find answers, find ways to get more pressure on him, find ways to get more yardage on Spags' defense, because they still look like the class of the NFL, and they're going to be, once again, number one in my power rankings.
And deservedly so. I mean, Richard, they essentially set the you up. They essentially sent the you up text to Kareem Hunt and Juju Smith-Schuster, and those guys said, "Hey, yeah, we'll come and play with you." I mean, the way you got Juju involved, 7 catches, 130 yards. You know, Patrick Mahomes elevates everyone around him week in, week out, and he did it again. I think one of the cooler and funnier moments of this game, though, Richard, I don't know if you caught it, was when ESPN's broadcast, they were commenting on Kalen Saunders, who used to play for Kansas City, and they're showing him at a Taylor Swift concert with Travis Kelce, and then no more than 3 plays later, I think it might have been the next play, he intercepts Patrick Mahomes' pass and runs it back for 50 yards. I mean, just crazy how that all worked out. But like you said, Richard, everyone was hyped up in New Orleans, 2-0 to start the season. They now lost 3 straight. They don't look like themselves when they were blowing out Dallas. What level of concerned are you? I mean, Derek Carr injury aside, this team hasn't looked very good the last couple games. How concerned are you for New Orleans
I'm
right
really
now?
concerned if I'm a fan, because, again, we had Cameron Jordan on the pod, and he said they started off 2-0 the year before. And, it's about how they continue to do it. And he was concerned that, things could happen like this. And they are. Things are falling apart at the seams, and there's no real answers that you can give. I mean, in this game, there were times they were in this game. They gave up a field goal before half. That was kind of the momentum shift. We thought the interception and the return, that was a heck of a return by him, would be something that could maybe turn the momentum. But again, Spags' defense answered the call again. They got after Derek Carr. It's going to be really tough to beat this team, Mitchell. No matter what you think about them, no matter what you think about Andy Reid, they are a fantastic, well-oiled machine right now and have very few weaknesses. And the weaknesses they have is difficult to exploit. So you take a very specific team in a specific way that you have to beat this team, and they aren't. The teams that are getting close to finding those weaknesses and exploiting them are getting beat.
The roller coaster of an NFL season is moving right along, and it promises to be a month full of tricks, treats, and of course, touchdowns. And DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, is the #1 place to bet touchdowns. Running it in from the 1 or on an 80-yard bomb, we don't care how they score touchdowns. We just want to bet on them. DraftKings heard us, and they are delivering. Ready to place your first bet? Try betting on something simple, like a player to score a touchdown. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your pick. Here's a reason for new customers to do a touchdown dance of their own. Bet just $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Score big with DraftKings Sportsbook, the #1 place to bet touchdowns. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code RICHARD. That's code RICHARD for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
But let's talk about the Sunday night game as well, Mitchell, because the Dallas Cowboys beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. Not the most exciting game in the world, and I don't think anybody expected it to be an exciting game. It was not an offensive showcase by any means, but Dak Prescott still threw 29. It was still 29 of 42 for 352, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Also lost a fumble, so 3 turnovers in the game. But still, Rico Dowdle, he probably played his best game this year, this season, 20 carries for 87 yards. He also had 2 catches for 27 yards and a touchdown. Jalen Tolbert, his best game of the season, 7 catches for 87 yards. But Pittsburgh Steelers, Justin Fields, he threw for 2 touchdowns. He did his best to just manage the game, not make any mistakes, didn't turn the ball over, 6 carries for 27 yards. Again, I would like to see him have more success on the ground. They weren't able to get Najee Harris going really at all. George Pickens, they targeted him 7 times. They were trying to find spots to get him the ball. It just didn't pan out for him. TJ Watt was all over the place, recorded his 100th sack. So congrats to TJ. He was causing a lot of chaos, causing a lot of pressure on Dak Prescott. This defense was doing their thing. Dante Jackson had a really cool interception in the end zone when Dak Prescott looked like he and the receiver were on a different page. He just kind of lofted it to the front pylon, and Dante Jackson was like, "Wait, you really throwing this? I don't think anybody's expecting it but me." Crazy, great interception by him. Joey Porter Jr. had a really good interception on a deep post route. They were playing really good. That defense was giving Dak a lot of problems, but again, you need more production offensively. They needed to find answers, be able to get the ball down the field. They took the lead, but weren't able to hold off the Dallas Cowboys. Unfortunately, they're set to play the Raiders in Las Vegas. Again, another opportunity for them to get a win in this very muddy AFC North Conference. The Cowboys host your Detroit Lions. I'm looking forward to that game again, of a revenge game from the infamous game last season, where did he
He reported, Richard.
Report or did he not?
Dan Skipper Taylor Decker reported. They confused him for Dan Skipper. Richard, this is a second game in a row, though. The Cowboys don't look all that impressive. I mean, the last drive to put away the game was an impressive one, but there was moments, and you saw it. You referenced the Dante Jackson interception. We saw CeeDee Lamb go to the sidelines and say something to Dak, whose head was down. There seems to be this offense just seems to be off. Rico Dowdle finally had a decent game toting the rock, but they really need to establish a running game in order for them to return to the team they were last year, in my opinion. On the other side of the ball, the Steelers, this is 2 losses for them in a row. At what point do you sit back and say, if you're Mike Tomlin, the time is now, we need to insert Russell Wilson, because you don't want to let the positivity of the season slip away just yet, Richard?
Well, I think if you're going to make that change, I mean, now is the time. You lost 2 straight. I think when they were winning, they were 3-0. Justin Fields was playing really good football, looked like he was developing really well. And then to have a game where he somewhat struggles, didn't turn the ball over by any means, but didn't look like the guy that he did the previous game. And so I think it opens the door and gives some credence, gives some leeway to Mike Tomlin to really make that decision and not face a lot of backlash. They won 3 games, but then they lost 2 in a row. So it's the perfect storm for him to make that change if he wanted to, but I don't know if he will. We'll find out sooner than later. But we'll see. I still think there's hope. I expected him to play better than he did in this game. There were a number of passes that were just off target, and you can't have that.
Well, Richard, as you mentioned, the Dallas Cowboys go on to play my Detroit Lions fresh off a bye week. I could not be more excited about that game. I'm going to be down in Dallas, Rich, wow, and I'm going to be rooting, bringing home a W. The Lions are favored in that game, a road favorite against the Cowboys. I think Vegas is telling you something about what they think about this Dallas Cowboys team.
Well, they've lost 2 at home, Mitchell, after winning 16 straight. So they're not the home team that they used to be.
No, Jerry's world is not quite that.
With so many tools and tabs and never enough time, growing a business can feel pretty overwhelming. You end up spending more time organizing documents and data than actually connecting with prospects and customers. That's where HubSpot steps in. It's the all-in-one customer platform for growing better. With HubSpot, marketers generate better leads, sales builds tighter relationships with customers, and closes more deals. And service supports your customers at scale with tools like HubSpot's AI chatbot and knowledge base, meaning your marketers, sales reps, and service teams actually have time to do what they're hired to do. And when they grow, the sky's the limit for your business too. Grow better, faster with HubSpot's all-in-one customer platform. Visit HubSpot.com to get started today.
Richard, let's get on to our new segment. I know we've been enjoying it the last couple of weeks, the buy or sell segment, where I ask you questions and you give me an answer whether you are going to buy or sell the comments I make. Richard, I'm going to start with Aaron Rodgers. The Jets go across the pond and suffer defeat at the hands of the Minnesota Vikings. Aaron Rodgers was hobbled, was getting hit like crazy, and just, has been kind of out of sorts. So the statement is Aaron Rodgers is not a top 10 QB in 2024.
I'm selling that, Mitchell. He's still a top quarterback. He still needs to knock the rust off. He's had moments where he looks like his old self, and then he has moments where he doesn't look like his old self. So I'm selling that. I think Aaron Rodgers, until he hangs up the cleats, you're going to have a hard time convincing me he's not a top 10 quarterback. I don't care. I'm biased.
All right, the Cincinnati Bengals, another team struggling, desperately needing a win this past weekend. Joe Burrow absolutely balls out, probably has the best game of his career, and they still lose in overtime against the Baltimore Ravens. Richard, the 1-4 Cincinnati Bengals will finish the season below 500. Buy or sell?
Now I'm buying that. Because they've done this before. But then they turned it on, and it was the defensive side of the ball that turned it on and turned up the notch because the offense was already clicking. This time, the offense turned it up a notch like they always do, and then the defense didn't show up. And if that's going to be the case, they're not going to get out of the cellars of this season. You're going to be picking in the top 5 if you keep playing this way. And I think this division is too tough. I think they're going to have a hard time winning a lot of games like that because he's not always going to have 5 touchdowns. Jamar Chase isn't always going to have 170 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns. T. Higgins isn't always going to have 2 touchdowns. You're going to have games where they struggle, and you need that defense to step up, and it just doesn't look like they're doing it right now, Mitchell. And so I'm going to buy that.
The Minnesota Vikings will make the Super Bowl this year. Richard, buy or sell?
I can't buy that yet, Metro. I've not seen enough to buy that. I really am impressed with what they've done as a team. I'm impressed with Sam Darnold. But again, you saw him come to earth a little bit in that game against the Jets. Then their defense steps up, makes huge plays. They win that game. But you see chinks in the armor. So I want to see it happen in the playoffs, and I want to see them win in the playoffs, win against these contending teams, win against teams like your Detroit Lions. I want to see how they play against the Detroit Lions, against the Green Bay Packers. This division is really tough now. So until then, I'm going to sell that for now.
Well, they're going to have an opportunity with Detroit hosting them in Week 7, so fresh off a bye, mind you, as well. And finally, Richard, Lamar Jackson goes and balls out on Sunday, helps the Ravens overcome the Bengals late. Yet Stephen A. Smith says Lamar has very little chance of winning the MVP. Are you buying or selling this?
Well, I'm selling that because I thought the same thing last year, and I was proven wrong. The stats didn't matter. He won MVP. So he had 4 touchdown passes and 50 yards rushing, which is an incredible feat. In a great game. So I doubt my opinion will matter, but I'm selling that.
Well, Richard, this concludes the buy-sell segment. We got a big game on Thursday. It's time for our TNF preview presented by Prime Video. Richard, you don't have to go too far from home. The party's coming to you in Seattle.
Oh, thank goodness.
The 49ers come to Seattle. Richard, Vegas has got San Francisco favored by 3.5 points. Both of these teams really, really need a win. I know you're going to pick a tie, but Richard, what are you looking for in this game?
How do you know I'm going to pick a tie?
I know you are. It's 25-25 every year, Richard. It's the Sherman Bowl. Come on now.
To do it. No, I just, it's so inconsistent. It seems inconsistencies are continuing to show. This interior offensive line for the Seattle Seahawks, I have no answers for it. They just haven't done a great job. And Dexter Lawrence and the New York Giants exposed it in a big way. Can the San Francisco 49ers do the same thing? We'll see. Offensively, this right side of the San Francisco 49ers offensive line has to get going. Brock Purdy has to stop turning the ball over. A lot of them are tipped passes, sacked, forced fumbles. Not necessarily plays that are in his control, but he's giving up the ball. And so that has to stop. That has been a Achilles heel. They have to convert in the red zone. They have to convert in the red zone. the Seattle Seahawks have to protect Geno Smith. He was sacked 7 times the last game, 3 by Dexter Lawrence. And this defense, that defensive line is really good, but you're not expecting that kind of production from this team, especially on the road in Seattle. That secondary, I mean, the run defense for the Seattle Seahawks gave up 129 yards last week to the Giants' backup running back. Has to change. They gave up too many passes. They gave up 18 for 18 the week before to Jared Goff. They had Daniel Jones looking like he's the best he's ever looked without Malik Neighbors, without Singletary at the running back spot. They gave up way too many yards, way too much success for the New York Giants. So that defense has to get recalibrated and get back to what works for them. Hopefully they get Leonard Williams and Byron Murphy back. I haven't heard a lot on that front, but that'll be huge in this game. That D-line versus this San Francisco 49ers offensive line. And then, again, Nicholas John Bosa is going to factor into this game. He's going to factor in, and I expect him to factor in a big way.
Well, that's this week's TNF Preview presented by Prime Video. And be sure to tune in this Thursday night as the San Francisco 49ers take on the Seahawks in Seattle. Richard, I know you're pumped for this game, man. This is the one you look forward to every year. It should be a hell of a game. Make sure you guys tune in and checking out Richard and the gang. It's 7 o'clock it starts, right, Richard, with TNF tonight. And they got awesome telecasts. You know, I love, like I talked about before, the Next Gen Stats simulcast that you guys have is freaking awesome. You guys have got to check it out. Richard, before we end this, though, I got to hear it because a lot has shifted this week. Where do the Richard Sherman power ranks, how do they stack up?
Kansas City Chiefs 1. Minnesota Vikings have to be 2. They're undefeated, playing good football. Houston Texans are still 3 for me. They're not moving off that spot. 4 and 5 are a little bit more difficult to call. Your Detroit Lions haven't done anything to lose my confidence because they've been off. So we'll put the Detroit Lions there in 5th and final spot. That 5th and final spot is the one that concerns me because I don't know these teams. There's so many teams. I want to say Baltimore Ravens, you know, they were in a dogfight, huge points. Lamar Jackson, 4 touchdowns, 4 touchdown passes, 50-yard rushing, 41 points scored against that Cincinnati Bengals team. But inconsistent, still lost to the Raiders. Their other loss was to number 1 in our power rankings.
Mm-hmm. Where's your head go with Washington? Are
That's
they
what I'm
creeping
saying.
up
They
into top
are
5?
sitting there in the back of my mind, and I'm sitting there wondering if Jaden Daniels and Bobby Wagner's Washington Commanders with Dan Quinn at the helm, but I also don't want to jinx them. Do not want to jinx them. Baltimore 5.
I respect it. I think Washington's got a heck of a game this week, and if they can pull this off, Richard, I think that maybe it's time.
Things
might change. Richard, this concludes. We're already through week 5. Season's flying. I will let you sign us off.
Well, thank you guys again for joining us, you Kansas City fans. I know you're feeling good. You're celebrating. You New Orleans Saints fans, I'm sorry. It's tough right now, but just take a deep breath. I don't know if it'll be okay, so I don't want to lie to you. It may not be okay. But I appreciate you for joining us. I appreciate all our Seattle Seahawks and 49ers fans for joining us. If you stayed this long, you could be anywhere in the world. But again, you're here with me, and I appreciate you. Have a beautiful, blessed day.